What is it that makes a scent masculine? What gives it appeal? For decades, the difference between men's and women's fragrances were nuanced. When Jacques Guerlain launched Jicky, considered the first modern perfume for women in 1889, so many men borrowed it that a few years later in 1904, Guerlain launched Mouchoir de Monsieur, which means gentleman's handkerchief in French, marketed for men. The scent is akin to Jicky, with the citrus turned up and the vanilla turned down. When I smell Jicky, this is an eau de parfum from 2005, it seems to me rather masculine. The top notes are aromatic citrus, herbs and lavender. It smells like perspiration on tanned skin. I admit I've struggled with Jicky for 30 years, but in looking at it again, I think I've finally learned to understand and appreciate it. Let's be clear about one thing though. Jicky, which is loaded with civet and has at its heart a very potent accord of lavender and vanilla, is a very sexy scent. The synthetic ethyl vanillin was used in this perfume for the first time. It demonstrates why vanilla is described as a psychogenic aphrodisiac. Jicky is reminiscent of the human body. When I tell you that two famously devoted fans of the scent were Brigitte Bardot, the brilliant actress and ultimate sex kitten, and the ostentatiously virile Sean Connery, it becomes apparent that this scent is a celebration of aromatics and universal sexiness. What could be added to Jicky, or for that matter any prototype masculine scent, that would make it distinctly more masculine? No doubt the cool earthiness of the fougere elements, lavender and cormoran, is the inevitable answer. Of course, women can wear men's scents to good effect, and men can wear women's scents. I've worn L'Herbleu, Mystère de Rochas, and the original Armani, to name a few myself. However, I do believe that scents usually lean masculine or feminine. This is a positive thing, as scents can enhance male and female allure, but are varied enough not to be stereotypical. Today I'm going to be looking at aromatic masculine scents, especially the aromatic fougères that came to the fore in the 1970s and 80s and became known for their overtly, almost rugged masculinity. Why wear a masculine scent? Apart from the obvious reason that its good smell will become your smell. Many aromatic scents are clean, fresh or bracing. They almost impart invigorating energy. A good scent adds a final touch, a layer of polish or finish. If you've done your best to look good by smelling good, you make yourself more attractive. Many aromatic masculines work on the subliminal level. Animal notes, especially musks, appeal to the subconscious. The person smelling them is reminded of the physical body beneath the outer clothing. The attribute of enhancing animal magnetism goes back to the likes of Jicky, so it's been a key element of the appeal of scent for well over 100 years. Modern scents, however, have tended to move away from sensuousness and animalics generally. The first scent I'm going to look at is a notorious aromatic from 1978, Caron's Yataghan. This is a scent with a reputation. The absence of floral prettiness and the assertiveness of the bitter opening has led to Yataghan being described as formidable. In truth, it's a beautiful, rugged masculine. In fact, it's one of the greats. Yataghan was created by Vincent Marcello. Top notes include pine, galbanum, basil, watercress, lavender and mint. Middle notes are artemisia, oak moss and patchouli. Base notes are castoreum, woods, incense and musk. The effect is a very masculine saddle leather, the saddle being worn for days across heat and cold and taking on some of the animal character of the horse and rider. The fur is always interesting and somewhat strange. There's a kind of booziness. It also reminds me of the woodwork room at my school, where resins, woods freshly cut and aged blended with 20 boys and an adult who always kept a rolled-up cigarette behind his ear. The fragrance is named after a curved Turkish sabre. The bold scent easily conjures up exotic images of herds of Ottoman horsemen. There are green elements for sure, but there's a warmth and sensuality to the scent. It's very deep, aromatic and masculine. Yataghan has had an interesting and varied band of famous devotees, including the scientist and marine adventurer Jacques Cousteau, legendary singer-songwriter Serge Gainsbourg, and the fastidious actor Jeremy Irons. Proving that the attraction of a scent can defy stereotypes, it was also worn by the late style icon Iris Apfel, who described the scent as fearsome, but also one of her favorites. In my video, The Scent of a Man, I touched on the history of fougere fragrances, based around lavender and the synthetic sweet new-mown hay scent of cormoran, used for the first time in the 1883 creation Fougère Royale by Houbigon. Another strand of masculine scents that dominated the later part of the 19th century were the aromatic bay rums, which are spicy, warm, and masculine. Bay rum was first produced in the West Indies around 1840. The leaves and berries of Pimenta racemosa were macerated with alcohol before rum was combined. Over time, various aromatics were added to give shade and character to the blend, including citrus, lime oil, spices, and clove. Bay rum was first fashionable in New York and other American cities before it was available in Europe. During Prohibition, bay rum was secretly consumed as a beverage since it contained upwards of 60% grain alcohol. The appeal of bay rums comes from the very pleasing mellow mix of rum and aromatics. I used to wear bay rum a few years ago and would take a small bottle to top up the scent during the day. These are delightful reminders of past tastes that are inexpensive. They're pretty easy to make yourself from the many recipes found online. Now here is a quintessential aromatic fougere, Azzaro Pour Homme, launched in 1978. The fragrance was created by Gerard Anthony and Richard Wirtz. This scent reminds me of Aramis, not because of its smell particularly, but because it smells so masculine, so pleasant, and so excellent that it's capable of knocking the rough edges off of almost any man. Azzaro Pour Homme smells clean and slightly sweet. It has warmth and the smell of clean skin. There's a little spice that sets it apart from slightly more austere fougères like Paco Rabanne Pour Homme. Having said all this, Azzaro is not a scent I've worn myself. This is simply because the somewhat metallic opening isn't especially appealing to me. There's nothing much wrong with it, and I'm sure it would appeal to many men. Here is a bottle from about 20 years ago. Top notes are lavender, lemon, caraway, and clary sage. Middle notes are vetiver, patchouli, cedar, sandalwood, and juniper. Base notes include oak moss, leather, amber, musk, and tonka. Azzaro Pour Homme was a favourite of the actor Ian Somerhalder. Polo by Ralph Lauren was launched in 1978. This is an aromatic chiffre with a heavy oat moss base. At least it used to have a heavy oat moss base, rather than a fougere. I'm afraid this is a sad story because this exceptionally beautiful men's scent lost its character about 10 years ago. The scent was created by Carlos Bername. Top notes are juniper, artemisia, and caraway. Middle notes are pine, leather, carnation, geranium, and jasmine. Base notes are tobacco, oak moss, patchouli, cedar, vetiver, musk, and amber. I had friends who wore the scent for years, and it was instantly recognizable. So what happened? All I can say is that the recent formulations have lost the richness, profound oak moss, and incredibly appealing medicinal note that made Polo so wonderful. This bottle is from 2005. I treasure it because it's proof of how wonderful the scent was, practically addictive. Polo reminds me of the medicine case our family doctor carried in the 1960s. Whenever he opened it, there was a pleasant mix of leather, menthol, camphor, and quinine. Polo was a favourite of the model Tyson Beckford. In the 20th century, designer houses would usually develop a new scent for years, perfecting the formulas, testing it with consumers, and developing a marketing campaign with the aim of creating a sensation. In the 1950s, Coco Chanel originally opposed the launch of Pour Monsieur, questioning whether it was appropriate for the brand, and in 1970 the Wertheimer brothers worried that the new Chanel No. 19 would damage sales of Chanel No. 5. A new perfume launch was considered and strategic. Novelty and distinction were vital for new scent's success. Today, houses may launch a dozen scents, often variations of an established scent, in a single year. According to one source, a total of only 76 new scents were released in 1990. By 2014, a staggering 700-plus new perfumes were launched in a single year. The market has become saturated at the expense of striking originality and distinctiveness. The next scent I want to look at is Jules by Dior, a very aromatic masculine fougere. Jules was launched in 1980. It was created by Jean Martel. Top notes are lavender, artemisia, caraway, and bergamot. Middle notes are carnation, basil, cedar, cyclamen, sandalwood, and jasmine. Base notes are oak moss, leather, fir, musk, amber, and tonka. This is an elegant, rather complex masculine. There's something of the herbal leather animalic character of Yataghan and Kouros. Jules is somewhat more refined, more charming if you like. Jules in French equates to boyfriend, or my guy, or my bloke in English. You can definitely detect the strangeness of cyclamen and fir in Jules. Although I tried Jules many years ago, I didn't buy a bottle until 2009. I tried the scent in Paris as it was no longer available in the UK. I didn't buy it when I first tested it, but I kept going back to the men's fragrance hall in BHV in Paris, and then wore it for a couple of years. It's a very French men's scent, comfortable and appealing rather than strong and bracing. The herbs and ambery leather are wonderful. The fact that it's only now available on the German Dior website is probably down to the fact that it's less distinct than many of the aromatic fougères of the 70s and 80s. The commercial campaign for Jour, the posters were made by the famous René Grau, caused so much interest that when it finally came out, it sold out on the spot. The scent was worn by Sam Neill. In 1981, Yves Saint Laurent launched Kouros into a world comfortable with bold and original perfumes, and those behind the fragrance is the great Pierre Bourdon. Born in Paris in 1946, Bourdon originally studied political science before making a dramatic change by commencing the study of perfume raw materials at Rouen in Grasse for 5 years. His tutor was none other than Edmund Rudnitzer, who imparted both his expertise and the notion of perfume as a work of art. Bourdon's work speaks for itself, and I'll be discussing several of his creations today. When asked which periods in art influenced his work, he said the period between Impressionism and Fauvism, a creative period which balances on figurative interpretation and transcendental reality. Having said that, I'm equally fond of Vermeer's paintings, in which the reproduction of light is almost supernatural. Bourdon has written about his creative process, but is under no illusion that commercial success depends on distinctiveness in fragrance. My brother wore Kouros when it came out, having previously chosen two beautiful but rather subdued men's scents, Pour Homme by Yves Saint Laurent and Armani. Kouros has a balance and beauty that will appeal to lovers of refinement, even though it has a bold animal quality too. How many people have fallen in love with the unique magic of Kouros since 1981? Kouros has an unmistakable dry down that carries a distinct smell of male skin in a warm atmosphere. The term Kouros refers to freestanding ancient Greek sculptures that depict nude males. The combination of elegant citrus and flowers with a slightly earthy musk and animal civet is magnetic. Kouros remains a huge seller for Yves Saint Laurent, although the scent is no longer a top seller in the United States. Here are various bottles, the oldest from the mid-90s. These two are from 2005, and this one from 2011. There are some variations among them. Some are a little more animalic, others a little more herbal or floral. The key thing is, and I say this as somebody that smelled the scent every week for years when it first came out, this scent maintains its essential character more than 4 decades after its release. Kouros opens with aldehydes, coriander, clary sage, artemisia and bergamot. The middle has patchouli, carnation, jasmine, vetiver, geranium, orris root, cinnamon and lavender. There are base notes of civet musk, leather, honey, oak moss, amber and tonka. The genius of Kouros is how a bright and refined aromatic fougere is blended with animalics. When I looked at various opinions of Kouros, I found some extraordinary claims about the scent. One website that bears the message, "Wear what you damn well like," and implores you to make scent personal and instinctive, describes Kouros as a killer that will have you banned from restaurants, claiming too that only the French could wear it today. Perhaps it would be safer to wear breath freshener or window cleaner. I'm always suspicious when followers of fashion try to assert that today is year zero, and you must forget everything that genius perfumers have known for 100 years. Yves Saint Laurent famously wore Kouros himself. Drakkar Noir by Guy Laroche was launched in 1982. This is a good place to start if classic fougères are new to you. There are 3 excellent reasons for this. 1, it still smells great. 2, it's a very well-mannered scent that gives a grown-up gentlemanly masculinity without overt animalics. And 3, it's incredibly inexpensive. You can get 200ml on Amazon today for under £20. How does this compare to the scent when it was first launched? I knew several people who wore the scent when it came out, and it's still very much recognizable as the creation of Pierre Wagner from more than 40 years ago. I think the scent was somewhat richer, with a little more depth, but it's still a wonderful, clean and interesting fougère, with wonderful balance. Here's a recent bottle. Top notes are lavender, lemon, rosemary, mint, verbena, basil and artemisia. Middle notes are juniper, carnation, cinnamon, wormwood, coriander, jasmine, with base notes of oak moss, pine needles, leather, vetiver, patchouli, sandalwood and amber. The mint weaves its way through the scent in a beautiful way. At every stage, Drakkar Noir remains well-mannered and a delight. Apparently, after it was launched, this classic masculine was adopted as a favourite of lesbians in Paris. It's no surprise to learn that anyone would be taken by this scent, because it smells so good for so long on human skin. It was also a favourite of the actor Bradley Cooper. The powerhouse beauty brand Estee Lauder entered the men's fragrance market in 1985 with their matchless Lauder for Men, created by Nicolas Calderon. The scent has an unusual depth and intensity. I wore Lauder for Men on and off for several years. I was attracted by the radiance and the beauty of the scent, which soon becomes ambery with a distinctive blend of florals and base notes. When you smell a nozzle, there's a characteristic Estee perfume smell, and on spraying there's a blast of juniper berry and galbanum. This is a very classy scent. Top notes include Kyrie sage, anise, lemon, cardamom, mandarin orange, with middle notes of carnation, vetiver, lily of the valley, and jasmine. There are base notes of oak, moss, patchouli, sandalwood, musk, cedar, and amber. The appeal of this scent is that it's not particularly masculine, but it's very easy to wear. It has a distinct chiffre feel and an unusual sharp but bracing tone. It's almost the opposite of Jicky, which is marketed for women but smells rather masculine. Notwithstanding, there is enough leather and heavy resins and oak moss to balance the florals and patchouli. I like the originality and elegance of the scent. It used to be available solely in Harrods in the UK, but sadly I think it's gone from there today. It's still a seller in the US. The face of Lauder in the 80s was Bruce Boxleitner. It was also worn by Leonard Lauder, renowned art collector and son of Estee Lauder. Now we come to another important fragrance from the brilliant Pierre Bourdon, Cool Water by Davidoff, which was launched in 1988. There's an interesting and rather controversial connection to Creed's Green Irish Tweed, which was worked on by Bourdon and came out a few years earlier. Until the 2010s, the two scents shared a very similar dry down. Then at some time in the 2000s, Green Irish Tweed lost the delicious quality it shared with Cool Water, diminishing its appeal. I discovered this after buying a bottle of the Creed and finding it much changed, at which point I stopped wearing it. I can't say what happened for certain at Creed, but I do know that other Creeds like Bois de Portugal and Arolfa also changed dramatically, and that the current scents are very different and inferior. Top notes of Cool Water are seawater, lavender, mint, green notes, rosemary, cologne, and coriander. Middle notes are sandalwood, neroli, geranium, and jasmine. Base notes are musk, oak moss, tobacco, and ambergris. Cool Water is intoxicating, beautiful, and fresh. It has a brightness and a blend of minty ambery woodiness that's amazing for the low price. The scent was promoted by the actor Josh Holloway. Jazz by Yves Saint Laurent was launched in 1988. The nose behind this fragrance is Jean-François Letty. This is such a pleasing, distinctive, and easy-to-wear scent, and I'm not surprised to see it available again. I note that of the 69 reviews on the Yves Saint Laurent website, 65 give Jazz 5 out of 5 stars. Top notes are lavender, nutmeg, coriander, artemisia, anise, basil, bergamot, cinnamon, and cardamom. Middle notes are geranium, carnation, jasmine, and iris, with base notes of oak moss, leather, tobacco, sandalwood, cedar, musk, amber, and tonka. I find this scent to be very classic, invigorating, and rather joyful. It has some of the character of Czar from Van Cleef & Arpels, but it's a little sweeter and more aromatic. The dry down is fantastic. This is another scent I knew well from friends, and it has pleasant memories for me. Jazz is less austere than some fougères. It just smells so good, and it's great to see it back. Jazz is worn by the musician Lenny Kravitz. Now we come to a very interesting and excellent aromatic fougère, Rive Gauche Pour Homme by Yves Saint Laurent. The scent was launched in 2003, and the fragrance was created by Jacques Cavalier-Belletru. There was considerable contribution from Tom Ford, who during his tenure as creative director for the Gucci Group, which oversaw Yves Saint Laurent at the time, Tom Ford personally spearheaded and oversaw the development of Rive Gauche Pour Homme. Top notes include star anise, rosemary, and bergamot. Middle notes are lavender, geranium, cloves, and coumarin. Base notes are patchouli, oak moss, vetiver, and guaiac wood. This scent has been described as a modern homage to classic masculine barbershop scents. I think this is a very beautiful scent, which is far from being classic. I think it's revolutionary and something of a Trojan horse. It's been noted that by 2003, fougères were for some beginning to feel dated, and therefore to produce a new fougère was a risk. But this is a beautiful and sophisticated blend. I've rarely received as many compliments as when I wore this 20 years ago. There's a clean, airy, and intoxicating freshness, but be aware this is one of those scents that seems to get stronger and stronger. Having said how much I like the scent, I found that it caused a sort of allergic reaction in people I knew, and so had to avoid it. There's something very penetrating in the scent that seems to be quite common in scents made this century, which is ironic when IFRA is so strict about ingredients today. To finish this survey, I want to talk about a modern fragrance, Beau de Jour by Tom Ford. The name is a pun of a pun. The masculine beau is used instead of the feminine belle du jour, literally beauty of the day, and originally a pun of belle de nuit, a lady of the night. The scent was created by Antoine Maisondieu as a Tom Ford private blend before being relaunched to a wider public at a lower price in 2020. This scent is a conundrum for me. It becomes very loud after a very quiet start. Reviews describe the classic nature of the scent as though it's a kind of homage to barbershop men's scents. It's hard to see where this idea comes from, unless perhaps they're thinking of Sweeney Todd's barbershop on Fleet Street. The ingredients look pretty standard and appetizing enough. Top notes are lavender and lavender extract. Middle notes are oak moss, rosemary, mint, geranium and basil, with base notes of patchouli and amber. There's nothing dirty or decayed or animalic in the scent, just intense waves of abrasive lavender, cinnamon, and woodiness. I looked at the ingredients to see if I could identify what it was that makes this penetrating scent last so long. It doesn't have a dry down so much as a half-life. Is it some kind of weird engineered fraction of lavender, perhaps? Though there are lots of synthetics listed, oddly including 3 different UV filters, it's not clear what makes the scent and many other modern fragrances so loud. It's no surprise that it lasts about a week of showering. Beau de Jour will not alarm any man who likes and wears modern scents today, and nobody will accuse you of smelling like an old man, because there's nothing remotely reminiscent of the human body, or indeed of nature. Despite its strident antiseptic quality, it doesn't feel like it's complementing the wearer, instead it's compensating. If only it had balance and a little gentleness. It would be interesting to see what could be done with a blend of lavender and cinnamon, which is so strong here as to be almost radioactive. Beau de Jour has been compared to Zeno by Xenia, which I can see, although I find the Xenia to be much less strident. It's strange that 2 very different strands in modern scent have developed, the foghorn, with notes that refuse to die, and the whisper, where sexter scents are ghostly and formless. It's been a delight to visit so many old friends for this video. They're reminders of the greatness of talented perfumers who worked with perfume houses to create something not only beautiful, but also memorable. Many of the aromatics I've described have been supplanted by very different kinds of men's scents, which lack distinctive allure. I wonder how much of this is due to strategic marketing, designed to create a battle between the classics and today's year zero approach. Customers are certainly prone to influence. To quote the great Pierre Bourdain, the choice of a perfume has as much to do with the regional culture as with one's preferences. It's even much more controlled by existing social codes than by desires believed to be one's own. Of course, most of the scents I've talked about today are out there and worth trying if you don't know them already. Nothing can have the same polish and manly appeal as a good scent. As the great Italian actor Marcello Mastroianni once said, "A cologne is the most powerful weapon in the fight for female attention."